And then when you talk about the Buddha nature teachings in the Kagyu tradition, which is our focus today, in general Tibetan scholarship or in general Tibetan sort of historical transmissions, you have the scholarly transmission through Ngok Lotsawa and his followers, and then the meditative transmission through Tsen Khaoche and his followers. But in addition to these two, would you say that the Kagyupas actually received also a transmission via Maitripa and Marpa directly? So not necessarily channeled through Sajjana in Kashmir and through Kashmir.
Well, that is possible, but I haven't seen any explicit record of such a distinct, separate tradition. And it seems, I mean, it could of course be that, the whole thing went just orally and was kept secret. That is very much possible. But it seems that Marpa clearly was focused on Tantras and Vajrayana. Like, from all we know, he didn't do really much sutra studies, if any. And also, the early Kagyu masters mostly were yogis and mostly oriented in that. Gampopa was one exception in his early life, and he studied with the Kadampa. And I think that's probably where the early Kagyu masters got their sutra studies. I mean, in the case of Gampopa, it's very clear. But also the other early Kagyu figures, like the first Karmapa and also the early other Karmapas and others, they all had studied with Kadampas or Sakyas. And so since we now know that there is this transmission of the Uttara Tantra meditative tradition actually in the Kadampa school, not necessarily as its mainstream body, but it's there and the texts are still there, then I think that is probably where they received the transmission of both Noglotsawa's tradition, which was also continued in the Kadampa, and Tsen Khaoche's. And there may have been others, but Tsen Khaoche's lineage is getting a little bit vague after a time in Tibet. And so I think they got both from mostly that direction. But there's no clear lineage histories about that, like the 5 treatises transmission in the early Kagyu lineage. It's more of starting with the third Karmapa then, who studied with the abbot of Sangpu, and that's where he got his trainings in the 5 Maitreya texts in particular.
Yeah.
And
I would like to come to...
Sorry. Maybe
Sorry,
that's
please.
A little bit ahead, but like when you look at Chamin Kongtrul, he received his transmission from the 9th Situ Rinpoche, and he from the 13th Karmapa, and then the 8th Situ Rinpoche, and he got it from Katok Tsewang Norbu, who they were close friends, 9th Situ Rinpoche and Katok Tsewang Norbu. So that was coming actually from the Nyingma tradition, and it is said that Katok Tsewang Norbu told the Etsidbai he should uphold the Shentong view. And so before that, Chamin Kongtrul lists mainly the transmission through the Jonang lineage. So that seems to be his main, and his main support is Jonang Taranata. So of course, Buddha nature teachings they are very strong.
Yeah, I think, especially in the later chapters of Buddha nature teachings, we seem to have transmissions from so many different sources. I think when we talk about the 2 main lineages coming from Kashmir, we are mostly talking about the lineage of the Uttara Tantra teachings, and not so much all Buddha nature, isn't it? Because later, when we have Kalachakra come to Tibet, then there's a lot of Buddha nature teachings or teachings on luminosity coming through Kalachakra. And I think Marpa would have received quite a lot of teachings on luminosity and Buddha nature related topics from Naropa and so forth.